To see you guys and be up here teaching. This many of you that I had last year, saw last year, second graders. Yesterday you did some drafting, writing with something that you knew about, nonfiction. Today we're going to take that writing and we're going to work a little with it. If it's not finished, no worries. You'll get more time today to work on it too. So yesterday, you were using what you know to plan, to organize, and to gather your thoughts to write that informational text. That piece of writing that you were going to tell us all about something that you knew about. And today, you're going to get to work on revising a piece of writing that I wrote, but I know you know about. Okay? What does revising mean? That's kind of what we have to think about first. So when I say revise, we're going to revise something. What does that mean? Well, it comes from this word. We have revise. And you might have heard of the word revision. And if you look at this part, the word vision. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor what you know about vision. Everything you know about the word vision.
Vision is physically, mentally, seeing, or if you saw something, you could automatically remember what it is. If you saw it again, that's something I know.
3, 2, 1. I heard a couple things about see. I've heard that a lot. Vision, what you see. Your vision is what you see. You're going to do a lot of seeing today. You're going to do a lot of reading, seeing what you wrote. I heard in your head, a vision can be something sometimes in your head of what you see. Like a picture in your brain, like your mental picture that's in there that you maybe isn't on paper yet. So when we revise, revision, revise, we're going to revision. If we talk about vision as seeing something, what do you think that means then, to re-see, revise? Absolutely. Look at your writing again. See if you might be missing something. Or if when you look at it again, you maybe need to kind of tweak it a little bit, change a few things. You have some great posters, charts up in your room about things that you've been learning about informational writing. Those are excellent things for you to be going back to and looking at when you're revising. You talked about introduction. What makes a great introduction in my piece of writing? You talked about different features that might be in an informational text, like drawings, photos, diagrams, definitions, maps. All of those things could be in your writing. And maybe yesterday you didn't put that in your draft yet. Well, that could be for later on your to-do list, what I might do later. And then you talked about elaboration, how to add more to your writing, how to stretch it out a little bit more so we understand as a reader of it that doesn't know anything and get the picture in our head. So all of those pieces we have to think about when we revise. When you revise, you're going to reread your writing. But think of it like you're putting on a different set of glasses. And sometimes I have to even like walk away from my writing before I come back to it. Like think about something else for a few seconds and then come back and reread it and get my brain fresh when I put on those new lenses.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I'm going to look at, did I follow my plan? Yesterday you talked about, well, and you talked about this before too, the boxes and bullets to make your plan. And I think almost everybody did boxes and bullets with your writing. That's your plan. Did I follow it? When you read the first time, you're going to look through and say, did I follow my plan? Did I put malls and outdoor markets and small shops into my writing about China? See. So, do you have to always follow your plan? What do you think? What are you thinking?
You always need to change your plan. If your rating's going to be good enough to start bringing out to the public, if it's like that kind of thing, you're never going to follow your exact original plan.
Okay. Sometimes you might follow it exactly how you have, but sometimes do you think you maybe add some more in there?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Or sometimes you maybe think you take something out that, yeah, it's a good idea, but it just doesn't fit. So, today, we're setting out to figure out if Mrs. Isaacson followed her plan. And I did last night in about, I'd say maybe an hour or two, between an hour to 2 hours, I wrote from what I remember, and that's a little shaky, what I remembered about teaching butterflies. Here was one, this was my first draft. Do you see I crossed stuff out in my plan? I started writing and that was even before I got down here. Oh, as I started to think about what I was going to write, I crossed it out and changed it. Before I even started the draft in sentences. Not everything is spelled right. It needs some work. I know it needs some work. Then I went, wrote this one. I kind of used my plan that was here, and I made it a little more simple. And I used some of the same stuff from here, put into this story. Not story, an article. Kind of both do the same things. And then I went to this one. And this is my plan, almost the same as my green plan. And guess what? I started writing and writing and writing, and it was like all of a sudden, all of my, because I wrote it twice already, some things, I started to think about other things. Oh, I gotta put those in there. That just isn't, yeah, that's not gonna work. These were okay. This one's okay. This one is not my final draft. It's not done. This one needs to go through revision.
But it
These
looks a
need
lot
to go
better.
through revision too. You talked about, are you revising already your written chapters? I kind of did that, didn't I? When I started with the yellow, and I went to this one, do you think I started to revise? Yeah, because I changed some things. Changed my plan, changed some ideas. Now, you're going to look at with a partner with thinking about putting on lenses and glasses. I wore mine today. So we're going to put on these glasses today, and we're going to look at, did I follow my plan? Did I follow what I set out to do? And at the top, sometimes it's hard to read my writing, so I'll go right for it. It says, butterflies. I started to write different kinds, and then I wrote painted lady, and then I wrote different kinds, focus on. That was kind of like to keep my mind focused on painted ladies. Then I put what, and I was going to say what they look like. That's what I was going to put for the next bullet. And as I was writing that, I thought, oh no, crossed it out. I want to do the stages of the butterfly. And then so I remembered, I had to remember what were the stages and kind of how long each stage was. And then my last one I thought about, and I've had the first two, and I was thinking, that's an awful lot, those stages. There's a lot in those stages. I want to also talk about what they eat. What do the butterflies and the painted lady eat? So I put that on there too. So what I want you to do is just with your shoulder partner here, and we might need to spread out a little bit further, I want you to read through what I wrote. Okay? And then I'm going to show you how we could revise it. I'm going to help you revise it. I'm going to show you that. Then, I'll get you a partner if you don't know. Then, we're going to look at this one with your partner and see if you can make a change or two. Okay? So, did I follow my plan? That's the first one we're going to read or think about. Did I follow my plan? Okay? Can you choose? Anybody? You two are going to be? Anna, can you maybe have it? Your partners? Okay? Sandy and Ian? If you want to get up and move to another spot to read it together, and you can read it out loud. Sometimes that's better to read it out loud. Nick, are you going to be with Gage? Okay? And one of the three of you together. Okay? Back again. Finished reading through at least once. So you read it through, we looked at it with the eyes, the glasses on that say, did I follow the plan? What was my plan again? What was the plan?
Well,
Mila.
you wanted to focus on painted ladies.
Painted ladies, okay.
The stages.
Stages.
And what they eat.
And what they eat. Did I talk about painted ladies?
Only once in the entire
Yeah, a very small amount.
Oh, so I only said it.
Yes.
I only said the word painted ladies one time.
Yes.
Okay.
And you
So-
didn't talk about what they eat at all.
Okay, so let's think about that. So then,
I was thinking. Oh yeah.
remember that thought right there. Second one was, so I did mention the painted lady one time. Was the whole thing about the painted lady? Oh, you're not sure if it was.
It's about butterflies in general, but it's got a bit about painted ladies too.
Interesting that we're wondering about that, because maybe that tells us my draft isn't very clear. Yeah, because my first plan was I wanted to focus on what kind of butterfly? Painted lady. And if that's not clear to you as the reader that it is all about only the painted lady, I need to probably go back and see where I can fix that and add more, probably the word painted lady in there. Do I want to say it every sentence?
No, but sometimes you can
I need to
use
add it.
butterflies.
Sure.
But you use butterflies most of the time, which isn't that clear.
So it wasn't clear because of that. Did I talk about the stages?
Actually, that was your
Okay.
main thing.
So I talked about all the stages. So that plan I followed probably pretty good. Did I talk about, and make sure you read the back side, there was a back side. Did I talk about what they eat?
Yeah, but you only said what the larvae eat. You didn't say what the larva and what the caterpillar eats and stuff. So you could have made that.
I could have made that clearer. I only talked about what the butterfly ate, and I needed to make that clearer. Absolutely. Mila.
You only crossed out what they look like.
Yeah,
You told us about that.
I did in the very beginning.
And it looks like you at the very beginning you were focused on the ingenuity, and then right after that paragraph, you went to say another.
It became unclear after that. You're absolutely right. That's why I went to writing the green one. Because when I went back through and I reread it, and I said, I'm missing some parts here. So, did I follow my plan? How about introductions? One of your charts is about introductions. Turn to your partner and tell your partner what you think about the introduction.
I would say
3, 2, 1. Thumbs up if you think it started with a bit of excitement. Thumbs down if you think not so exciting. Yeah, it really isn't that exciting of an intro, is it? Yeah. Did my introduction go over the big topics that are going to come up?
no.
Yeah. Thumbs up if it did, thumbs down if it didn't. Yeah, down. Did it talk about the whole thing and not just the first part?
It didn't even talk about anything that you
Thumb
would
down,
know.
yeah. Did I ask any questions? No. So, do I have a good introduction? No.
Not that.
Okay. Did we have to reread the whole piece to think about the introduction?
I don't know. Yeah.
Did we have to reread it? No. We read it the first time, right, to think about the plan. And did you go back through and reread it a whole second time to think about just the introduction?
No.
You just read that part that was the introduction. Yeah, when you're looking at the introduction, if you've already just read the whole piece, you don't have to go back and reread the whole entire thing. You can just read that introduction to kind of think about your ideas about introduction. My introduction needs some help. Needs some help. Did I use any elaboration? Here's what I want you to do. With your partner, I want you to go through and count on your fingers any times where you think I may have used elaboration. This time, you're putting on your glasses, the elaboration glasses. Am I giving more information about things? So go back through. This time you're going to want to reread the whole piece again, looking for elaboration.
Is this like when I did the orange and black and white in my writing?
Yep.
Okay.
Find where I use elaboration.
So that's where I'm going to elaborate.
1. With your fingers, put up how many times you found elaboration in my piece.
Oh, I thought you meant where we needed elaboration.
That's okay.
Oh. So we found 3 spots.
That it needed. Okay. And the rest of you found 2, 3 places where I maybe elaborated. Do you think my piece, give me a thumbs up if you think my piece needs more elaboration. Now, those of you that got your thumbs up and say I need more elaboration, support why you think it needs more elaboration. Can somebody tell me why they think that it needs more of that?
So it might be a little more interesting.
What part?
The thing maybe?
But you said I did have some elaboration in there.
Almost covered.
So is there a specific part that you could point out to me that might,
The beginning, the intro.
what can I do to it to make it more elaborate?
You can make it longer.
By doing what?
I don't
Just adding lots of words in there?
know. By making it more interesting.
How am I gonna do that? That's the tough part,
You
isn't
need
it?
to elaborate on how to elaborate. I told Bennett, but I forgot.
Girls, what did you think about it?
You could have put like where the colors were, and you didn't say like that it had black polka dot. You didn't say where the brown was.
Yeah. If you were to describe a painted lady that was just brown with orange and black, do you think we would all draw the same thing?
Yeah.
If you didn't know what a painted lady looked like, do you think you'd draw the same thing?
You could draw something that looks more like a monarch.
Is it striped? Is it polka dotted? Is it... It didn't tell about its shape, its size. So it needs more there. So here is what you're going to do with your piece. I'm going to give you a checklist. Your checklist is just a guide to help you know what you need to look for in your writing. Remember, you can do this without being finished, because this guide will help you know what do I need to do next. So on here it says, overall, I taught the readers information about a subject. I put in ideas, observations, and questions. On this piece, we would check starting to, but I didn't do it in all parts. So we have not yet. There's nothing in there. You check not yet. If it's kind of starting to do it in some places, starting to, and if you did it and it's really nicely done, then you check yes. So that's the overall. Then you do the lead. What's the lead? What's the lead?
Like the introduction.
Introduction. Another word for introduction. And then transitions, the ending, the organization, elaboration, and your craft. And each of these explain what you're looking for. Am I not yet there? Am I starting to? Or, yes, I got it. Do you think you're going to only read your piece one time? Mm-mm. You're going to read it with your overall glasses on. Then you're going to switch and you're going to think about just the lead or the introduction. Then we're going to think about just, put new glasses on, the transitions. And then I got to take the transition glasses off and I got to put on my ending. How's my ending? I'm going to go reread that ending and see how is my ending. My ending, not yet there.
I don't even think you even have
Not yet.
You just
Organization, starting to, but I can't check yes yet. Elaboration, what would you think about elaboration? Not yet or starting to? I'm thinking starting to because you put up 3, 2, 4 fingers. I'm thinking it's starting to get there, but not yet. And then the craft. Craft is where you choose expert words to teach the readers. Oh, what kind of words could I have used in here? Vascus. I could have talked about the bristles, the spiracles, all those expert words about butterflies and caterpillars, right?
The good thing is you use the word emerge instead of come out when it talked about the butterfly, the adult butterfly emerging from the chrysalis.
So that would be a place where I used an expert word, maybe.
But that's so few that if you didn't look at it carefully, there's not anything else.
So that was one place
So
I
that
used
would
it.
probably be a not yet.
I'm needing more. All right. The last two, ignore them. We're not doing those right now. So do not do the last two, spelling and punctuation. We're not looking for spelling and punctuation today. We're revising, we're putting on new glasses to look at our writing. You are doing more writing. And sometimes you need to go read your writing out loud to yourself. How many of you remember doing that last year in our class? We did that a lot. Because when you read it out loud, you hear it back. And sometimes it's in your mic, in your whisper phones you did that, didn't you? And sometimes we don't need to do that sometimes, and sometimes we do. We want to whisper to ourselves. Okay? So, going back to, you wrote yesterday a well-organized, planned piece. You're going to use your checklist today to see through different lenses and different glasses that you're putting on. You're going to read it several different times, thinking about, okay, now I've got my glasses on that tell me about planning. Now I've got my ending glasses on. Even if your piece isn't done. All right?
I barely have anything.
I only have my ideas,
So-
seriously.
Do you only have your ideas down?
Yeah, I only
Okay,
have
then
my
you'll have to
ideas.
wait till you do have some drafting to do this. Okay? Head back, and then those that are maybe ready to share their checklist, we'll all come back together in a little bit and we'll share your checklist. All right? Head back out.
Way over here. It's okay. No worries. All right. So Michele, you're sweating? Yes. Hot. So how do you feel the lesson today went with these third graders?
Well, my first thought was, I had a plan. I was teaching them about following your plan, and I did not follow my plan after a little while.
Okay. So what do you think went well?
Having them see a piece of writing that was in the script that was not written well, that needed some help, but there were parts that were okay. And that part, having them have that piece went okay. Maybe the beginning, talking about the revision, what does that mean? Giving them that piece to tie to. That when you're doing this piece, you're looking at it a different way, making that connection, helping make that connection. In the checklist, I really like the checklist. They want that for future writings. I think that guided them in their, what I'm supposed to do, because that was pieces that I talked about in a different way, but they had it visually and can check it and
Okay.
go back to it.
So in thinking about your objective today, what was your stated objective?
Was, did they follow their plan? You know, revising to see that you followed your plan.
And
But maybe my objective needed to be broader than that. I don't know if that was the right objective for the lesson.
so today, at the beginning of the lesson, you talked about that plan. You know, what is their plan? I think that was clear. How do you feel that when they went back to their desk, in their place in the writing, do you think that they were at a place to know what their plan was?
Many of them know.
Okay.
Because they hadn't had enough time to write that story. Their informational. Many of them just had their plan in one sentence. So they couldn't even check to see if they followed their plan yet. So had I known that as the classic teacher, known that they weren't that far, I don't know that I would have done today's lesson yet. There would have been more time to write.
At the beginning, you said to them that they were going to, you said today you will work on revising a piece that I wrote. How did they do that? How did they show that revising?
They didn't. They only did it verbally. That was where my plan went, so.
Okay.
Because they did it just in their turn and talk, they only did it in the talking piece. And telling me what they would change, but not actually physically in the writing changing it. Ian was. He went and got his pencil and did it himself.
Be sure that you knew what to change. So what would you do differently with that part?
Well, after I started going
Or
with
would
that,
you?
it was more to get them to see those parts. I think I intended for them to then go to the green piece, but we ran out of time. But we were going to go to the green piece and then scrawl on there and write on there, but because of time, we didn't do the green one. And so that yellow, and maybe I didn't need the green one, maybe we just could have done it with the yellow one and not even gone.
So where do you feel today when you were doing that, having them do that revision, or because they were orally revising, where do you feel you were in the gradual release of doing that revision piece of your writing? What was your goal?
There was not really a model. I didn't model it. They went to the partnering and just sharing it back with me to independent. So there wasn't the physical actual doing it. I missed the modeling of it. I didn't do one myself and talk through it. My yellow one I should have done myself.
So what would that look like?
I would to take their comments and go through and physically move that piece of writing and change it with their suggestions.
They could have continued their oral turn and talk about places that you could have revised.
And maybe even before that, I could have just done it and talked through it.
Mhm.
Here were pieces where the intro was for, here were, I skipped that whole piece.
It was fun for me to see your excitement, back with the kids. I think it was great, really great, that you were able to pull from something that, well, I think every one of them knew, because they were all here last year. Yeah, and so, they all knew about that, many of these kids you had in your classroom. But I think too, your excitement about that and their excitement about that showed, and you were definitely, looked like you were having a great time with them and sharing that. I think that it was great to see how many of them, they really wanted to critique your piece of writing. And you did things that allowed them to do that, making misspellings and things like that, which was great for them to see. And they could pick it out.
Well,
Did you feel?
Yeah, that's what they were, when I was listening in, they were looking at, she didn't capitalize that I, she spelled there's an E on larva, it shouldn't be. And I thought, we are not, and that's what we do too, when we look at a thing, we want to fix all those things. And that's why I said to them, we're not looking for those pieces, we're looking for, did I follow my plan? I felt like I followed my plan a little bit better than they had intended, or that they thought I did.
Okay. Where
I
do you
knew I
think they-
wasn't clear with, and I purposely only put Painted Lady in there one time. I knew that wasn't clear, but
So where did they have the most trouble on the checklist with your plan? Or with the plan, I should say, that you made, looking back at it?
Probably with that, there was the clear organizational piece, that it did go through those stages. That second bullet, it did follow that plan. Maybe it wasn't elaborate, and maybe didn't, have a lot of details in there, but it did do what my plan said I was gonna talk about stages, so it did do that. And they didn't talk about that, they pointed out, I can do the
Right.
pieces that Petra was poor in there,
Yeah.
and the ending was poor.
But those are things too that they'll look at the end of the checklist, they'll come back to.
But in retrospect, you want them to do that to their own piece. You want them to be critical of their own piece and point out, the checklist, you want them to fix this, all that too.
How about, talk time? That's one of our goals, or something, that I also said that's a struggle. How do you feel the teacher time versus student time was today?
Oh, it's way more me. And right at the beginning, I felt like that more, and then they did the turn and talk, and they talked with one another, but we did that a few times.
So do you think then,
But I don't know how.
do you think in that revision, had you done that, taking your piece of writing, do you think that would have been more additional opportunities for them to talk with their partner about things that you could, going through the checklist, elaborate on, or looking back at that plan? And just
Yeah.
thinking about that.
But I think though, if I would have went through and modeled it, then I would really feel like it was totally my talk time too.
Right. But during that time, you're at what stage? And thinking about gradual release, where would you be?
Which you are, talk time.
Yeah. So you're doing the think aloud. You're sharing your thinking with them while you're revising.
There's a lot in this lesson. We all kind of went through so,
Yeah.
how do you do that in 20 minutes?
Great question. Yeah. Would you break, if you, let's say, these were your kids and you knew that their stories were done. They've made the plan, they followed their plan. Okay, so let's say they have that done.
And maybe I didn't know to go into revision. Maybe I didn't need to talk about revise or revision and what that meant. But I didn't know what they knew about that. That piece could have been left off had they already learned about revision and revising and knowing that. And that could have been shorter, but when they had to have them turn and talk about it, we could have just gone into it.
How much was that covered in
here's our
previous
plan.
lessons? I can come on camera.
There was the one,
So it
anchor,
had
there was
charts.
another lesson.
Yeah. So they knew, and when you
I love
did
that.
the turn and talk, tell, about that revise, revision, they were able to, I think they were pretty clear, at least the ones I heard. Did you hear anybody that we weren't feeling?
And
didn't
maybe
know
I
what
don't
that-
even need to go back and reiterate what they said to each other, just move on from there. I hear that you're clear about revision and what it means, and move on. I always feel like I need to have them state what it is that they said to their partner, or at least have somebody, one person, or. Say that.
You did a great job, I think, of trying to push Zach, to give that evidence back, looking back at your writing, well, what would you have done? He didn't really,
He was not going
he
there
forgot
with
what
me.
he told Bennett, but.
He was not going there.
Yeah, but, I think that, so how could you?
But as the teacher then that told me, he doesn't get it, and I know I gotta hone in on where he's at in his writing.
you think he really didn't get it, or do you think he just didn't want to share it with everyone?
I think he raised his hand just to talk to Tom, just to be in touch.
Needed a little time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. if
So
he
where
know
would
or
you,
not.
where would you go next? So in tomorrow's lesson, where would you go next?
I would just give them time to write tomorrow. They need time to write.
Would you have them writing and thinking about, or would you have them put the checklist away?
I don't know. They seem to kind of like that checklist. They seem to like that, almost like that brought them back to what I need to have in here. I don't know. I don't know about that because like, what was the little girl's name? The long-haired one.
Lucy.
Lucy. Yeah, she really wants that, and that is kind of like her little guide. She liked that. And she goes, oh, now I know I need to add more. So I think for some of them, having
Helped
that
in the-
helped them in their process. I think some just want to write. So it's
giving them more
there.
time.
For those that need to use it, they're not ready for it. Giving them more time to write. I probably would go back and summarize again, we have a plan. If you're not done with your plan, finish your drafting and revise, before you even start revising. That we notice that we need to have that writing done before you can ever revise. Or a good start on it before you revise.
So how likely do you think they are to be able to go into their piece of writing critically and make those revisions?
On their own. I bet 25% off. I think if they were sat down with a checklist and a partner and read through their writing with a partner and talked about it, maybe more would do it than.
I think it's so easy for them to be critical of your writing, of someone else's.